Relax. Take a breath with me right now. Not the hurried breath of someone trying to get somewhere, but the sacred breath of a soul, remembering who it is. Feel the air enter your body without effort. You are not forcing it. You are not earning it. You are not striving for it. It simply comes. And in that simple, unnoticed miracle is a profound truth. The universe already knows how to sustain you. You have been taught to tighten your grip on life, to plan harder, to compete more fiercely, to defend your position, to prove your worth. But what if I told you that the very tension you carry is the only thing standing between you and the alignment you seek? What if the door to everything you desire opens not with force, but with surrender? The ego whispers, push. The soul whispers, allow. And the ego has been loud in your life, hasn't it? It tells you that you are your resume, that you are your bank account, that you are your past mistakes, that you must earn love, earn success, earn peace. It convinces you that life is a battlefield and that you must armor yourself against disappointment. It tells you that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. But look at the ocean. The ocean does not strain to create waves. It does not compete with the shore. It does not argue with the wind. It allows. And in that allowing, there is power beyond comprehension. The ocean can carve stone. It can carry ships. It can reflect the moon. It does not do these things through tension. It does them through alignment with its nature. You are not a struggling fragment in a hostile universe. You are an individualized expression of the same intelligence that moves the tides and spins the galaxies. And that intelligence does not operate from panic. The sun does not rush to rise. The seed does not strain to become a tree. The sky does not cling to the clouds that pass through it. Why, then, do you cling so tightly to your fears, your plans, your need to control? Relax and watch the universe align for you. There is a deeper order at work in your life. Even when circumstances appear chaotic, the ego sees randomness. The soul sees orchestration. The ego sees delay. The soul sees divine timing. The ego screams, "Why is this happening to me?" The soul gently asks, "What is this here to teach me?" You have been conditioned to believe that control equals safety. But control is the ego's attempt to outsmart infinity. It is like a single wave trying to command the entire ocean. It is exhausting and it is unnecessary. When you relax, you are not giving up. You are giving over. You are shifting from force to faith. You are remembering that the same intelligence that beats your heart without instruction can also guide your life without strain. Think of an orange. When you squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice. Why? Because that is what is inside. If anger comes out when life squeezes you, it is because anger is inside. If fear pours out, it is because fear has been stored within. But when peace flows out, when trust flows out, when love flows out under pressure, it is because you have chosen to fill yourself with something greater than ego. Relaxation is not laziness. It is alignment. It is the conscious decision to fill yourself with trust instead of tension. And trust is not passive. Trust is an active state of spiritual awareness. It says, I may not see the entire path, but I know I am guided. It says, I may not understand the delay, but I know nothing is ever late in the universe. It says, I am not separate from the source that created me. You have been chasing alignment as if it were something outside of you. But alignment is not a destination. It is a remembrance. It is the moment you stop arguing with reality. It is the instant you release the belief that life must look a certain way for you to be at peace. The sky does not resist the storm. It allows it to pass. And when the storm is gone, the sky remains untouched. You are the sky, not the storm. You are the awareness behind the thoughts, not the anxious voice within them. When you identify with the storm, you panic. When you remember you are the sky, you relax. The universe cannot align with a mind that is in constant resistance. Resistance is a declaration of distrust. It is saying, I know better than the intelligence that created worlds. And that belief keeps you locked in struggle. But when you say, I trust, something extraordinary happens. You shift your vibration. You move from contraction to expansion, and life responds to expansion. Everything is energy. Your thoughts are energy, your emotions are energy, your beliefs are energy. When you live in fear, you contract your energy, you shrink your field of possibilities. When you relax into trust, you expand. And in expansion, you become magnetically aligned with what is already seeking you. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are in energetic harmony with. And harmony cannot exist in a mind that is constantly bracing for disaster. Relax. Feel the tension leave your shoulders. Feel the urgency soften. The universe is not testing you. It is teaching you. It is guiding you. It is responding to the frequency you emit. If you walk into a dark room and curse the darkness, nothing changes. But if you light a candle, the darkness disappears instantly. You do not fight it, you illuminate it. Relaxation is lighting the candle of awareness in the room of your fear. So many of you are exhausted not because life is too hard, but because you are trying to carry it alone. You believe it is all up to you, that if you stop striving, everything will collapse. But let me ask you, who was beating your heart before you learned to worry? Who was orchestrating your growth before you formed an identity? There is an intelligence within you that has never been confused. When you relax, you allow that intelligence to lead. Imagine floating on your back in a calm lake. The more you thrash, the more you sink. But when you relax, the water holds you effortlessly. Life is the same. When you fight it, you feel like you are drowning. When you trust it, you realize you are supported. The ego fears relaxation because it fears irrelevance. If you trust the universe, what role does the ego play? Very little. And so it creates urgency, it manufactures problems, it invents enemies. It convinces you that if you do not worry, you do not care. But worrying is not caring. Worrying is rehearsing what you do not want. It is focusing creative energy on imagined disasters. Relaxation, on the other hand, is creative faith. It is the decision to expect alignment rather than chaos. Say quietly to yourself, I am not separate from the intelligence that created me. I am aligned with the flow of life. I am supported in ways I cannot yet see. Feel the shift as you speak those words. That is not imagination. That is alignment. You do not need to force opportunities. You need to become receptive to them. You do not need to chase love. You need to embody it. You do not need to control outcomes. You need to align with intention. Intention is not a desperate wish. It is a quiet knowing. It is planting a seed and trusting the soil. You do not dig it up every hour to check its progress. You water it. You give it light. And then you allow. What if the delays in your life are not denials, but divine rearrangements? What if what you thought was a setback was actually a protection? What if the closed doors were guiding you towards something more aligned with your soul? Relax and watch. You cannot see the entire tapestry of your life from where you stand. You see threads. The universe sees the whole design. When you insist that a single thread must look a certain way, you miss the beauty of the greater pattern. There are no accidents. There are no wasted experiences. There are only lessons guiding you back to your true nature. Your true nature is not anxious. It is not frantic. It is not lacking. Your true nature is abundant awareness. It is infinite possibility. It is the quiet certainty that you are part of something vast and benevolent. When you relax, you return to that nature. And from that place, miracles are not rare events. They are natural consequences of alignment. A miracle is simply a shift in perception from fear to love. When you shift your perception, the world reorganizes around you. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means your relationship to them transforms. You stop asking, how do I control this? And begin asking, how is this serving my evolution? You stop clinging to outcomes and start living in presence. Presence is where alignment lives, not in yesterday, not in tomorrow, but here, now, in this breath. Right now, in this moment, nothing is missing. In this moment, you are alive. In this moment, you are connected to the same field of intelligence that sustains all life. In this moment, there is no problem, only awareness. And from awareness comes clarity. Clarity does not arise from panic, it arises from stillness. When the surface of a lake is disturbed, you cannot see your reflection. But when it becomes still, everything is clear. Your mind is that lake. Relaxation is the stillness that reveals truth. You have been taught to believe that you must chase the universe. But the truth is, the universe is responding to you. It is aligning according to your inner state. When you shift from fear to trust, from scarcity to abundance, from resistance to allowance, life shifts with you. Not because you are controlling it, but because you are harmonizing with it. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are a participant in creation. Every thought is a brushstroke. Every belief is a color. Every intention shapes the canvas of your experience. If you want the painting to change, do not attack the canvas. Change the brush. Relaxation is choosing a different brush. The ego says, I will believe it when I see it. The soul says, I will see it when I believe it. Which voice will you follow? You have tried striving. You have tried forcing. You have tried proving. How has that felt? Perhaps it is time to try something radically different. Perhaps it is time to relax, to soften your jaw, to unclench your hands, to release the story that you must fight for every blessing, to trust that what is meant for you cannot miss you. The universe does not require your tension to function. It requires your alignment. And alignment begins with a single decision. I choose trust over fear. From that decision, everything changes. Doors open that you did not knock on. Conversations happen that you did not orchestrate. Insights arise that you did not plan. This is not coincidence, it is coherence. When your inner world becomes coherent, your outer world reflects it. Relax and watch the universe align for you. Not because you demanded it, not because you manipulated it, but because you remembered who you are. You are not a powerless being trying to survive a chaotic world. You are a divine expression of infinite intelligence, learning to trust itself in human form. And when you relax into that truth, life stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a dance. Let it dance with you. Let it surprise you. Let it support you. You do not have to hold the world together. You only have to hold your awareness in love. Everything else is taken care of. And as you begin to loosen the grip of urgency, something subtle yet extraordinary begins to unfold within you. There is a spaciousness that emerges, a quiet inner horizon that was always there, hidden behind the noise of striving. In that spaciousness, you discover that life is not pressing against you, it is moving through you. You start to sense that you are not a separate fragment trying to earn your place in existence. You are existence, expressing itself as you. The tree does not question whether it deserves to grow. The river does not doubt its right to flow. The stars do not apologize for shining. Why, then, have you been taught to question your worthiness to expand? The answer lies in the illusion of separation, the belief that you are disconnected from the source of all things. That belief creates the restless need to prove, to compete, to compare. But comparison is the language of the ego, and the ego survives on measurement. It asks, am I ahead? Am I behind? Am I enough? The soul asks a different question, am I aligned? Alignment has nothing to do with outperforming anyone. It has nothing to do with accumulating symbols of approval. It is an inward calibration, a return to harmony with your original nature. And that original nature is whole. You were born whole, before the world handed you labels, before expectations were placed upon your shoulders, before you internalized the idea that love must be earned. You arrived here complete, carrying within you a spark of infinite intelligence. When you relax deeply enough, you begin to remember that wholeness, not as a concept, but as a felt experience. It feels like coming home after a long journey. It feels like exhaling after holding your breath for years. It feels like setting down a weight you forgot you were carrying. In that remembrance, fear begins to dissolve, not because you have conquered it, but because you no longer identify with it. Fear belongs to the conditioned self, the story of who you think you are, but the awareness behind the story remains untouched. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast sky at dusk. The clouds may be thick, heavy with storm, yet the sky itself is unaffected. The sky does not resist the darkness. It simply allows the clouds to pass, and eventually, they always do. You are that vastness. Thoughts of doubt may arise. Emotions of uncertainty may ripple through you. Circumstances may appear unpredictable, but the consciousness observing all of it remains steady. When you shift your identity from the passing clouds to the infinite sky, your relationship to life transforms. You no longer panic when the wind picks up. You no longer attach your identity to temporary conditions. You begin to move with the rhythm of change rather than bracing against it. And this is where alignment deepens. Because when you stop arguing with what is, you free up immense creative energy. Resistance drains you. Acceptance restores you. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging the present moment as the doorway to growth. Every moment carries a hidden invitation, an invitation to expand your awareness, an invitation to choose love instead of fear, an invitation to trust the unseen architecture that is arranging experiences for your evolution. There is a silent intelligence guiding you, an intuitive current that speaks in whispers rather than commands. It does not shout over the noise of anxiety. It waits for your stillness. It waits for your willingness to listen, and when you become quiet enough, you hear it. It may speak as a gentle nudge toward a new direction. It may appear as an unexpected opportunity. It may arrive as a realization that changes your perspective entirely. It does not force, it invites. Your task is not to control the path. Your task is to remain receptive. Receptivity requires softness. It requires humility. It requires the courage to admit that you do not have to figure everything out in advance. The mind craves certainty, but the soul thrives in trust. There is a profound freedom in not knowing exactly how things will unfold. It allows mystery back into your life, and mystery is sacred. Mystery reminds you that existence is vast, intelligent, and far more creative than your limited expectations. When you release the need for constant predictability, you open yourself to possibilities beyond imagination. Life begins to surprise you in beautiful ways. Synchronicities appear, encounters feel meaningful, timing feels intentional. This is not superstition, it is resonance. As you elevate your inner state, you harmonize with experiences that match that elevation. When your inner dialogue becomes compassionate, the world reflects compassion. When your inner narrative shifts from scarcity to abundance, opportunities arise in unexpected forms. It is not magic in the theatrical sense. It is alignment in the energetic sense. Everything in existence vibrates. Every thought you entertain carries a frequency. When you dwell in doubt, you tune yourself to experiences that echo doubt. When you dwell in gratitude, you tune yourself to experiences that echo gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful states of alignment available to you. It shifts your focus from what appears missing to what is already present. And in that shift, you move from contraction into expansion. Expansion is your natural state. The universe itself is expanding. Creation is an ongoing process. You are part of that expansion. When you cling to old identities, old grievances, old limitations, you resist the natural movement of life. But when you allow yourself to grow beyond who you were yesterday, you participate consciously in creation. Let yourself evolve. Release the outdated narratives that no longer serve your becoming. The story of failure, the story of unworthiness, the story of I can't. These stories are habits of thought, not truths of being. You are not bound by yesterday's conclusions. You are not obligated to remain the version of yourself that survived past challenges. You are free to become something greater. That freedom may feel unfamiliar at first. The ego prefers familiarity, even if it is painful. But your soul longs for expansion, even if it requires courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move beyond it. And you do not summon courage through force. You summon it through alignment. When you trust that life is unfolding for your growth, stepping forward becomes natural. Each step does not need to be dramatic. Sometimes alignment reveals itself in the smallest adjustments, choosing patience over irritation, choosing forgiveness over resentment, choosing presence over distraction. These small choices accumulate. They reshape your inner landscape. And as your inner landscape transforms, your outer reality begins to reorganize around it. You begin to notice that situations which once triggered anxiety no longer hold the same power. You respond rather than react. You observe rather than absorb. You create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, wisdom resides. Wisdom is not acquired from books alone. It is cultivated through awareness. It grows each time you choose consciousness over conditioning. The more you practice this awareness, the more stable your inner world becomes. And stability does not mean rigidity, it means rootedness. Like a tree whose roots run deep, you may sway in the wind, but you do not break. Root yourself in trust. Root yourself in the understanding that you are supported by an intelligence far greater than your individual mind. When challenges arise, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What part of me is being invited to grow?" Growth may not always feel comfortable. Expansion stretches your edges. But discomfort is not a sign of misalignment. It is often a sign of transformation. Think of a caterpillar dissolving within the cocoon. From the outside, it appears confined. From the inside, it is becoming something entirely new. The dissolution is necessary for flight. There may be seasons in your life when everything feels uncertain. Old structures fall away. Familiar roles dissolve. It can feel disorienting. But these are often the moments when alignment is quietly rearranging your trajectory. Do not fear the cocoon. Within that stillness, new wings are forming. When you relax into these transitional spaces, instead of resisting them, you move through them with grace. You recognize that identity is fluid. You are not confined to one version of yourself. You are a dynamic expression of evolving consciousness. And as your consciousness expands, your capacity for compassion expands with it. Compassion begins within. It is impossible to extend genuine understanding to others if you are harsh with yourself. When you release self-judgment, you create room for healing. You realize that every mistake was a lesson. Every detour was a redirection. Every challenge was refining you. There is no wasted experience in a life lived consciously. Even your pain has served you. It has softened you. It has awakened you. It has deepened your empathy. When you view your past through the lens of growth rather than regret, you free yourself from its weight. Forgiveness becomes natural, not because others necessarily deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Holding resentment ties your energy to the past. Releasing it restores your vitality. You do not forgive to condone behavior. You forgive to liberate your spirit. In that liberation, your energy becomes available for creation rather than defense. You begin to build from inspiration instead of reacting from old wounds. And inspiration is the language of alignment. Inspiration feels light. It feels expansive. It feels aligned with your highest intention. It does not push, it pulls. It does not demand, it invites. When you follow inspiration, you are guided by the deeper current of life. You begin to sense that you are co-creating with something greater than your individual will. And in that co-creation, there is profound joy. Joy does not depend on perfect circumstances. It arises from connection. Connection to the present moment, connection to your inner truth, connection to the intelligence that animates you. You do not have to wait for success to feel joy. You do not have to achieve a certain status to feel peace. These states are available now as inner choices. Choose them. Choose to rest in the awareness that you are already supported. Choose to stand in the truth that you are guided. Choose to move through life with a heart open rather than guarded. Relax, not as an escape from responsibility, but as an embrace of divine orchestration. The more you trust, the more evidence of trustworthiness appears. The more you embody love, the more love reflects back to you. The more you align with abundance internally, the more abundance manifests externally. This is not about manipulation. It is about congruence. When your inner beliefs and outer actions harmonize with your highest truth, life flows. And you begin to realize that alignment was never something to achieve. It was something to allow. So soften into this moment again. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the breath within you. Feel the quiet intelligence that has never left you. You are not navigating life alone. You are life, awakening to itself. And as you continue to relax into that realization, you will witness a quiet miracle unfolding, not in dramatic spectacle, but in subtle synchronicities, in unexpected blessings, in the gentle assurance that everything is moving exactly as it needs to. Trust the unfolding. Trust the unseen architecture. Trust the infinite wisdom that flows through you as naturally as breath. And watch with a calm and open heart as the universe continues to align in ways more beautiful than you could have ever forced. Take a deep breath with me right now. Not the hurried breath of someone chasing the next moment, not the anxious inhale of a mind trying to control outcomes, but the slow, deliberate breath of a soul, remembering something ancient. Feel it. Life is breathing you. You are not managing the breath. The breath is happening. And in that simple realization is a profound truth. There is an intelligence beating your heart, growing your fingernails, moving the tides of the oceans, spinning galaxies in silent perfection. That same intelligence is guiding your life. Relax. Life already knows the way. From the moment you arrived in this physical body, something far greater than your personality has been at work. Before you had a name, before you developed preferences, before you learned the language of comparison and fear, you were pure presence. You were the sky before the clouds appeared. You were the ocean before the waves began to identify themselves as separate. And yet somewhere along the way, the ego whispered a lie. It said, you must control everything. You must compete. You must defend. You must prove. And you began to believe that you were the wave, struggling against other waves, terrified of crashing onto the shore. But what if you are not the wave? What if you are the ocean itself? The wave rises and falls. It appears for a moment, dazzling in the sunlight, and then dissolves back into the vastness. The ego trembles at this idea because it seeks permanence in form. It wants the wave to last forever. It wants recognition, applause, certainty. Yet the ocean is never diminished when a wave disappears. It is simply expressing itself in infinite shapes. In the same way, your life is an expression of an infinite intelligence. Your job is not to force the wave higher. Your job is to remember you are the water. So many of us live in quiet panic. We grip our goals. We strategize every detail. We replay past conversations. We forecast imaginary disasters. We believe that if we do not strain and struggle, everything will collapse. But look at the trees outside your window. They are not straining to grow. They are not competing with the sky. They are rooted. They trust the soil, the rain, the unseen process unfolding beneath the surface. The oak does not envy the pine. The rose does not rush the spring. Nature does not hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. Why do we imagine we are separate from that same divine orchestration? The ego says, if I relax, I will fall behind. The soul whispers, if you relax, you will align. And alignment is far more powerful than effort. When you are aligned with your source, you move with the current of life instead of against it. You stop trying to swim upstream, exhausted and resentful, and you allow yourself to be carried by something wiser than your intellect. This does not mean passivity. It means participation without fear. It means action inspired by trust rather than driven by anxiety. There is a difference between forcing a door open and walking through one that gently swings toward you. Life is constantly presenting doors. Some open easily, others remain closed no matter how hard you push. The ego interprets a closed door as rejection. The soul sees redirection. How many times have you looked back at an event you once called a disaster and realized it was a blessing in disguise? The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the plan that collapsed, each one carved a new path you could not see at the time. The mind judged it as failure, but the larger intelligence was rearranging the pieces of your life into a design more aligned with your growth. Life already knew the way, even when you didn't. The problem is not that life is chaotic. It is that we are addicted to certainty. We want guarantees. We want to know how everything will unfold before we take a single step. But faith is not the absence of planning. It is the absence of fear. Faith is knowing that whatever happens, you are supported by something eternal. It is understanding that you are not a fragile accident drifting through randomness. You are a divine creation, participating in a divine plan. Imagine holding an orange in your hand. When you squeeze it, what comes out? Orange juice. Not apple juice, not grape juice. Why? Because that is what was inside. When life squeezes you through pressure, through uncertainty, through loss, what comes out? Anger, bitterness, blame? That is not life's fault. That is what was inside. And the squeezing is not punishment. It is revelation. It shows you where healing is needed. It shows you the places where the ego still believes it is separate and in danger. When you remember that you are the ocean, not the wave, the squeezing changes. Pressure becomes purification. Challenge becomes invitation. You begin to ask, what is life teaching me? How is this serving my awakening? Instead of resisting what is, you lean into it with curiosity. You trust that even discomfort is part of the choreography. There is a rhythm to existence. Day becomes night. Winter becomes spring. Inhale becomes exhale. Birth becomes death. None of it is a mistake. Yet the ego clings to one side of every duality. It wants perpetual summer, constant success, endless applause. It forgets that without winter, there is no renewal. Without silence, there is no music. Without stillness, there is no clarity. You are not here to control the rhythm. You are here to dance with it. When you stop arguing with reality, something miraculous happens. The energy you once used to resist becomes available for creation. The mind quiets. The heart opens. You begin to feel guided rather than pressured. Synchronicities appear. Conversations align. Opportunities unfold with a sense of effortlessness that once seemed impossible. This is not magic, it is alignment. It is what happens when the wave stops fighting the ocean. The ego fears surrender because it confuses surrender with defeat. But surrender is not giving up, it is giving over. It is releasing the illusion that you must micromanage the universe. It is trusting that the same intelligence that paints sunsets and orchestrates the migration of birds is fully capable of guiding your career, your relationships, your dreams. Do you truly believe you are separate from that intelligence? Or have you simply forgotten? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the vast sky. Clouds drift across it, some light and wispy, others dark and stormy, but the sky itself remains untouched. It does not cling to the clouds or resist them. It allows them to pass. Your thoughts are like those clouds. Worry drifts in, doubt forms, fear gathers like a storm. And you, identifying with the cloud, panic, but you are not the cloud. You are the sky, vast, unchanged, limitless. When you rest in that awareness, you realize that no external event can define you. Success does not inflate you. Failure does not diminish you. Praise does not complete you. Criticism does not destroy you. You are already complete because your essence is divine. And when you know this, you stop scrambling for validation. You stop chasing outcomes as if they are proof of your worth. Relax. Life already knows the way. Every time you attempt to force an outcome from a place of fear, you step out of alignment. You tighten, you constrict. You shrink into the illusion of separateness. But when you act from inspiration, from that quiet inner knowing, you expand. There is a lightness, a sense that you are being moved rather than pushing. This is the difference between ego-driven ambition and soul-guided intention. Intention is not about controlling details. It is about aligning with qualities. If you set the intention to live in peace, you will be guided toward experiences that teach peace. If you set the intention to embody love, you will encounter situations that invite you to choose love over fear. The path may not look like you expected, but it will always serve your evolution. Consider the seed planted deep within the earth. In darkness, it breaks open. From the perspective of the seed, this breaking might feel like death, yet it is the beginning of growth. You, too, have experienced moments when everything seemed to be falling apart. Perhaps it was not falling apart. Perhaps it was breaking open. Perhaps life was creating space for something greater to emerge. The ego resists breaking open because it thrives on familiarity. It would rather remain in a small, known prison than step into vast uncertainty. But the soul longs for expansion. It longs to express its infinite nature through you. And when you cling to the old, you block the new. When you insist on controlling the script, you miss the improvisation of grace. There is a deep intelligence within you that always knows the next step. Not 10 steps ahead, not the entire map, just the next step. And that is all you ever need. The mind demands the whole staircase before it takes a step. The heart needs only the next stone illuminated. When you listen to that quiet inner voice, you are guided with precision. It may tell you to rest when the world says hustle. It may tell you to speak when fear says stay silent. It may tell you to let go when attachment screams hold on. Trust it. Trust that the discomfort you feel is not evidence of failure, but evidence of growth. Trust that the delays are not punishments, but preparations. Trust that even the endings are sacred. For every ending clears space for a beginning aligned with who you are becoming. You are not here to survive life. You are here to participate in its unfolding with awareness. When you shift from control to trust, from fear to faith, from ego to essence, something extraordinary happens. You experience freedom. Not freedom from circumstances, but freedom within them. You realize that peace is not found in arranging the world to your liking. Peace is found in aligning with the deeper current that flows beneath appearances. Imagine floating on your back in a calm sea. If you thrash and panic, you exhaust yourself. If you relax, the water holds you effortlessly. Life is like that. When you trust, you are held. When you fight, you sink into anxiety. The choice is not about controlling the ocean. It is about choosing your posture within it. I am not suggesting that challenges will disappear. Storms will come. Waves will rise. But when you know you are the ocean, the storm does not define you. It passes through you. And afterward, you remain vast, undisturbed at your core. Say to yourself quietly, I am guided. I am supported. I am exactly where I need to be. Feel the resonance of those words. They are not empty affirmations. They are reminders of truth. When you declare, I am, you speak from the same creative power that brought the universe into being. You align with the source of all existence, and from that place, fear dissolves. The more you relax into trust, the more you notice that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are both the instrument and the musician. The melody of your life is being composed in real time, and your role is to allow it to flow without insisting it sound a certain way. When you stop criticizing the notes, you begin to appreciate the symphony. There is no rush. The oak tree does not become mighty overnight. The river does not reach the ocean in a single leap. Everything unfolds in divine timing. Impatience is a signal that the ego is demanding immediate gratification. Patience is the soul's understanding that growth is invisible before it becomes visible. Relax. Life already knows the way. You do not need to have all the answers. You do not need to eliminate every uncertainty. You do not need to fix every imperfection. You need only to remain connected to the awareness that you are more than your thoughts, more than your fears, more than your temporary circumstances. You are an eternal being having a human experience, and that experience is designed for expansion. When you wake each morning, instead of asking, what do I have to control today? Ask, how can I align today? Instead of saying, what if things go wrong? Say, what if everything is unfolding perfectly for my highest good? Feel the shift in energy. Feel the spaciousness that enters your body. That is the difference between ego and essence. In the end, you will see that every twist in your path was purposeful. Every detour led to a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Every challenge refined your character. And the moments you thought you were lost were the moments you were being led. So release the tight grip. Soften your shoulders. Let your breath deepen. The universe is not confused about your destiny. The same intelligence that moves the stars is moving you. You are not behind. You are not off track. You are not forgotten. You are carried. And when you remember this, when you truly embody it, a profound calm settles into your being. You move through the world with quiet confidence. You act when inspired. You rest when called. You speak from love. You release resentment. You forgive quickly because you understand that holding on to anger is like gripping a hot coal. It only burns you. You trust that every soul you encounter is part of the grand design of your awakening. Relax. Life already knows the way. Let this truth sink into the deepest layers of your consciousness. Let it replace the old narrative of struggle and scarcity. Let it dissolve the illusion that you must fight for your place in the universe. You already belong. You always have. You always will. And as you walk forward from this moment, carry this awareness like a quiet flame within your heart. When doubt arises, return to it. When fear whispers, breathe into it. When uncertainty appears, smile gently and remember, the path is unfolding exactly as it must. You are the ocean. You are the sky. You are the intelligence behind the breath. Trust it. Align with it. Relax into it. Life already knows the way. And as you continue along this sacred journey, there will be moments when the path ahead appears obscured, when the horizon seems wrapped in fog, and your carefully constructed plans dissolve like mist in the morning sun. In those moments, the invitation is not to panic, not to grasp for certainty, but to deepen your listening. For beneath the noise of the world, beneath the chatter of the conditioned mind, there is a current of knowing that has never once been confused about your direction. You were born with an internal compass that does not rely on external approval. It does not spin wildly in the presence of criticism, nor does it inflate under praise. It is calibrated to truth. Yet many have been taught to distrust it. We have been conditioned to look outward for permission, to measure our worth by comparison, to seek validation in fleeting applause. And so the compass grows quiet, not because it has failed, but because it is waiting for you to remember its voice. When you begin to honor that inner guidance, something subtle shifts. Decisions are no longer made from fear of missing out or fear of falling behind. They arise from resonance. You feel into a choice rather than calculate it to exhaustion. There is a softness in the body when something aligns, a constriction when it does not. Your body is not merely flesh and bone, it is an instrument of intuition. It speaks in sensation long before the mind formulates language. Consider how a river finds its way around obstacles. It does not argue with the rock. It does not attempt to overpower the mountain. It flows, it curves, it adapts without losing its essence. That is strength without aggression. That is power without force. You, too, possess this capacity. When resistance appears in your life, you can meet it with rigidity or you can meet it with fluidity. The river never doubts that it will reach the sea. It understands that every bend is part of the journey. So often we mistake delay for denial. We assume that if something does not manifest immediately, it must not be meant for us. But what if timing is an act of compassion? What if certain doors remain closed because you are still gathering the wisdom required to walk through them? There are seasons for planting and seasons for harvesting. To demand fruit from a seed that has just been placed in the soil is to misunderstand the rhythm of growth. Within you exists the quiet sanctuary, untouched by circumstance. It is not shaken by market fluctuations, not diminished by relational conflict, not defined by titles or possessions. It is the space of pure awareness. When you rest there, even briefly, you recognize that your essence has never been wounded. Experiences may have left impressions on the personality, but the core of your being remains whole. Healing, then, is not about fixing what is broken. It is about remembering what has always been intact. The ego thrives on narrative. It collects grievances like trophies, rehearses stories of injustice, clings to identities shaped by past pain. Yet these stories, repeated often enough, begin to feel like truth. And still, you have the power to step outside the script. You can observe the story without becoming it. You can witness the memory without reliving the emotion. In that witnessing, freedom emerges. Forgiveness becomes less about excusing behavior and more about liberating yourself from energetic entanglement. To forgive is to declare that your peace is more valuable than your resentment. It is to release the illusion that holding on to anger will somehow restore balance. The past exists only as a thought in the present moment. And in this moment, you are free to choose a different interpretation, a different response, a different identity. Imagine standing before a mirror that reflects not your physical form, but your beliefs. What would you see? Would you see limitation or possibility, scarcity or abundance? If you have been gazing into a mirror of doubt, you may have forgotten that you are the one holding it. You can tilt it toward faith. You can polish it with gratitude. The reflection changes when the perception shifts. Gratitude is not a denial of difficulty. It is an acknowledgement of underlying grace. Even in the midst of challenge, there are threads of support woven through your experience. A lesson learned, a strength discovered, a compassion awakened. When you train your awareness to notice these threads, life begins to feel less like a battleground and more like a classroom designed for your expansion. There is immense power in the simple declaration, I am willing. Willing to grow, willing to release, willing to trust, willing to see differently. Willingness opens doors that force cannot. It softens the rigid edges of expectation and creates space for miracles to enter. And miracles, contrary to popular belief, are not violations of natural law. They are expressions of a higher law, operating beyond the limited perception of the ego. When you align with that higher law, synchronicity becomes commonplace. You think of someone and they call. You contemplate a new direction and an unexpected opportunity appears. These are not random coincidences. They are reminders that you are participating in an interconnected field of intelligence. Your thoughts carry energy. Your intentions ripple outward. You are not isolated. You are intricately woven into the fabric of existence. This understanding dissolves loneliness at its root. Even in solitude, you are accompanied by the presence that animates all life. The same force that causes flowers to turn toward the sun resides within your own awareness. You are never outside of it. You cannot fall from its embrace. The feeling of separation is a learned perception, not an ultimate truth. As you deepen into this realization, comparison begins to lose its grip. You no longer measure your journey against another's timeline. You recognize that each soul unfolds uniquely, like distinct notes in a vast symphony. To envy another's melody is to forget the beauty of your own. When you honor your path, you contribute authentically to the whole. There will still be moments of uncertainty. This is part of the human experience. But uncertainty need not equate to fear. It can become a sacred space of potential. When the future is unwritten, possibility is infinite. Instead of filling that space with worst-case scenarios, you can fill it with trust. You can say, I do not see the entire design, but I trust the designer within. And so you move forward, not with reckless abandon, but with quiet confidence. You take inspired steps without demanding immediate proof. You allow relationships to evolve naturally. You release the need to micromanage outcomes. You recognize that control is often a disguised form of insecurity, while trust is an expression of inner strength. Each morning becomes an opportunity to recommit to this alignment. Before the world rushes in with its demands, you center yourself in stillness. You remember that you are a spiritual being engaging in human activity, not a human being occasionally having a spiritual thought. From that remembrance, your actions carry a different quality. They are infused with intention rather than urgency. And as the days unfold, you begin to notice a gentle transformation. Situations that once triggered anxiety now invite curiosity. Interactions that once sparked defensiveness now offer compassion. You respond rather than react. You listen rather than assume. This is the quiet evolution of consciousness. It does not announce itself with fanfare. It reveals itself in subtle shifts of perception. The world may continue its noise, its speed, its endless striving. But within you, there is a sanctuary of calm that cannot be shaken. You carry it into boardrooms and kitchens, into conversations and quiet evenings. It becomes the foundation from which you live rather than a place you visit only in crisis. And in this way, your life becomes less about achieving a distant destination and more about embodying a present truth. You realize that fulfillment is not postponed until some future milestone. It is available now, in this breath, in this awareness, in this gentle surrender to the intelligence that has always been guiding you. So walk forward with a softened heart and an open mind. Let go of the need to choreograph every detail. Allow yourself to be surprised by grace. When confusion arises, pause instead of pushing. When fear whispers, return to your inner stillness. When doubt appears, remember the countless times you were carried through what once seemed impossible. There is a wisdom within you that predates your worries. There is a strength within you that does not depend on circumstance. There is a love within you that requires no external source. Anchor yourself there. And as you do, you will find that life does not demand your constant vigilance. It invites your conscious participation. It does not require your struggle. It welcomes your trust. It does not need you to dominate the current. It asks you to flow with it. Breathe deeply again. Feel the quiet assurance settling into your bones. You are not lost. You are not unsupported. You are not navigating a meaningless maze. You are unfolding precisely as you are meant to unfold. And in that unfolding, there is a quiet perfection. And as you stand here in this awareness, something within you grows still. Not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of deep knowing. The kind of knowing that does not need evidence. The kind of knowing that feels like home. You begin to sense that nothing in your life has been accidental. Not the detours, not the heartbreaks, not the long nights of questioning. Each experience has been a brushstroke on the canvas of your awakening. What once felt like chaos now reveals itself as choreography. What once felt like loss now reveals itself as refinement. You are not becoming whole. You are remembering that you have always been whole. The striving softens. The urgency dissolves. You no longer chase the horizon because you realize the horizon moves with you. The fulfillment you sought in distant achievements begins to glow quietly from within. It was never waiting at the finish line. It was waiting in your recognition. There is a profound gentleness available to you now, a way of walking through the world without armor, a way of speaking without defense, a way of loving without bargaining. When you trust the intelligence that breathes you, you no longer feel compelled to prove yourself to anyone. You understand that a rose does not struggle to justify its fragrance. It simply blooms. And so you bloom. You bloom in uncertainty. You bloom in transition. You bloom even in the presence of unanswered questions, because your blooming is not dependent on perfect conditions. It is an expression of your essence. You are life expressing itself as you, and life does not hesitate. Feel the quiet miracle of your own existence, the heart beating without your command, the lungs rising and falling in sacred rhythm, the awareness reading these words, all of it guided by something vast and benevolent. You are not separate from that vastness. You are a unique expression of it. Let this realization settle deeply. You are supported in ways you cannot always see. You are guided in ways you may not always understand, and you are loved by the very force that holds galaxies in place. Release the final remnants of resistance. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath lengthen. Let the mind rest from its constant calculations. There is nothing you must solve in this moment. There is nowhere else you must be. This moment is complete, and so are you within it. Trust the unfolding. Trust the quiet nudges of your heart. Trust the invisible current moving beneath appearances. You are not walking alone. You have never walked alone. The path rises to meet your feet with each step, even when you cannot see beyond the next few inches of light. And as you move forward from here, carry this gentle certainty. You do not have to force the river. You do not have to command the sunrise. You do not have to control the turning of the seasons. Relax. The wisdom that created the stars is guiding your life with the same precision, and it has always known the way.
To change from thinking big to thinking small. It's so much of the Tao has in it statements that seem so paradoxical and so confusing to us. More is less. Less is more. Think small and get great things done, accomplish great things. Listen to verse 64 of the Tao Te Ching. A tree that fills a man's embrace grows from a seedling. A tower 9 stories high starts with 1 brick. And here's the most famous line out of the Tao. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with what?
The first step.
1 first step. Okay? So, today, I can stand up here on this stage in this beautiful sacred place, in this beautiful yin-yang symbol, on this incredibly beautiful set that feels so much like nature. And I can say to you that in a very short time, this year, I will have completed 20 years without taking a drink of alcohol. 20 years, okay? Thank you. Now that's big. And if I would have tried, if I'd have said to myself 20 years ago, Wayne, you're going to quit drinking for the next 20 years, I would have gone immediately and had a drink. Because it's just too big, isn't it? It's just too big. You don't do big things. You do small things and thus accomplish great things. It's a very important distinction to make. Whatever it is that you would like to create or contribute or become in your life, take 1 step. How did I let drinking go for 20 years? And I don't even know about tomorrow. I never think about tomorrow and whether I'm going to have a drink. All I know for sure is that this won't be the day. I do it 1 day at a time. That's how you overcome anything called an addiction in your life. You take it, you reconnect yourself to the source from which you came, which is a source of what? Well-being, isn't it? And you get back and return, get on the return trip and saying, I am connected to well-being. And I'll do this 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second, if I have to, at a time. And when you do it, I mean, it's behind in all of the programs for overcoming addictions, and all of the work of Bill W., all of the work of Alcoholics Anonymous, all of the work of any kind of addictions. It isn't just alcohol. It can be food. It can be addiction to your emails. It can be addiction to work. It can be addiction to so many things that so many people find that they can't get past. And to move themselves into a place where I think small. I ran 7 marathons in my running years. And about the 22nd or 23rd mile, you begin to ask yourself about your sanity. And what am I doing here? And my body is breaking down. But the way that you finish the marathon is not by saying, I'm going to run 26 miles. You don't do that, especially when you've still got 5 or 6 to go. You just say to yourself, can I put my foot in front of the next one? Can I take 1 step at a time? Can I do it 1 step at a time? And before you know it, you've accomplished great things. I watched my wife give birth to 4 children right there in her in the delivery room with her. And she does not, you know, when you have a baby, it takes 9 months, doesn't it? You don't say to yourself, oh my God, I gotta have a baby, I gotta get pregnant, I gotta deliver it, I gotta go through labor, because that'll just drive you. And there are people who do that. And it's a torture for them. But I watched her do it 1 moment at a time in labor. Not what's going to happen an hour from now, what's going to happen this afternoon, am I going to have the... none of that. And she did it all naturally because it was all... And her mind was so strong as she was doing it that I couldn't even penetrate. I couldn't even communicate with her. She was so focused on just being here. She would say, these are not labor pains. These are just signals. Just signals. And I can take this signal. I can do this for 1 minute. I can do this. And every great athlete, I don't care who they are, they will always say, I can't think out there in big ways. I can only think small. Thinking small is what gets great things done. Verse 63. Achieve greatness in little things. Take on difficulties while they are still easy. Do great things while they are still small. The sage, one of my daughter's names, the sage, does not attempt anything very big and thus achieves greatness. Greatness comes from being in the moment, here, present, in the now. The sage confronts difficulties but never experiences them. This is the idea of thinking small.
You can attract to yourself what you desire. The central notion of manifesting is the understanding that you have within yourself the ability to attract the objects of your desire. Being able to attract your desires may seem more likely when you consider how things move from the world of the formless into the world of the form. In one of the most intriguing sentences in the New Testament, St. Paul addresses this process of creation. He says it this way: things which are seen are not made of things which do appear. St. Paul is telling us that the creative energy is neither solid nor restricted. The physical world of form originates in something other than the form itself. St. Paul's words form the basis for my writing about this principle and for several of those to come in this tape. I believe they suggest how energy informs our ability to attract what we desire. St. Paul is giving us a clue about bringing our desires into the world of matter. Energy then becomes a force that we can tap into. In a film about his boyhood, Albert Einstein describes picking up a compass and watching it in fascination as the needle moved when he changed direction. He said that he became obsessed with understanding the invisible force that moved the compass needle. Where was the force located? Who controlled it? Why did it always work? Like magnetism, there is a force that has many characteristics that are quite impossible to detect with our physical senses. We call this force energy. Energy is in all things in our universe and has an impact upon objects around it with something that we describe as the power of attraction. In magnetic fields, we can easily see it at work, yet we're unable to detect the formless energy with our sensory apparatus. The force is there, attracting and repelling, and it is everywhere on our planet. If it is everywhere, then it is also within us.
It seems unlikely that our senses will inform us any better than they help us comprehend how a magnetic pole works. We can see the results, but the force itself is always elusive and in motion. The essence of this fourth principle of manifesting is that we can utilize this energy because we are this energy. We can use this universal energy to bring to us objects of our desire because the same energy that is in what we desire is also in us, and vice versa. It is simply a matter of alignment and will that allows us to tap into this force. Bringing things into the physical world is a process that we call creation. What we create involves the use of the same power that is in all that is created. It is only a matter of degree. There's absolutely no difference in the power that brings something from the world of waves into the world of particles and the power that brings your thoughts or mental pictures into form. I encourage you to listen to this again and again and commit it to memory. The world of spirit from which all matter derives and the world of matter comprise one harmonious whole. They are separate but always together, just like the peak of the wave and its base, separate but forming an inseparable whole. Think of manifesting as nothing more than transforming waves of possibility into particles of reality. The transforming process requires energy. This energy is invisible but is always in everything, including us. Your mental pictures are related to this power of attraction. There is a power within you that allows you to form a thought or a picture. This mental picturing power is the energy of attraction that is in all creative processes. It is different in degree, but nevertheless identical with the power of attraction. This power is the very substance of life. You can't see, touch, or hear this power, but it is within you. In using this power, you are not in any way attempting to change or interfere with the laws of nature. You are fulfilling the laws. This undifferentiated power is the basis for the mysterious attraction that draws your desires to you. Think of yourself as a way that God has of particularizing. Then see your ability to formulate mental pictures as the divine creative power energizing through you. Can you see that the same creative energy that particularizes as yourself is what you use to manifest your desires? This power thrives on happiness, love, joy, contentment, and peace. The more blissful and loving you are, the more the divine spirit particularizes within you and the more godlike you become. It is through your thoughts, or how you use your power to create a thought, that all creative energy is attracted to you. If your mental pictures are of being surrounded by things and conditions that you desire, and they are rooted in joy and faith, your creative thoughts will attract these surroundings and conditions into your life. The power to even have a thought is a divine power. With this recognition of its sacredness, you form a vision or a mental picture. Finally, you hold it lovingly in place with the inner knowledge that the God force that brought everything in the universe into existence also created you. The form that this energy will take will be controlled and directed by your will or your mental picturing. It is waiting to take any direction you decide. You impress upon the universal mind the object of your desire, and you calmly and knowingly proceed to act upon that picture, allowing the greater intelligence and your own, which is a part of that greater intelligence, to work through you to produce the results. You abandon all fear and return to the affairs of your life, assured that the necessary conditions will soon come into view or are already there. The key is to repeat the mental pictures until the truth of what you are affirming resonates within you without an ounce of doubt. And there will be times when it appears that it isn't working. If your picture doesn't manifest in the time span that you've designated, relax and retreat to your knowing that it is already in place in the spiritual realm. Time is simply not a recognizing feature of the all-creating wisdom.
Here's what Saint Germain says about in the I Am discourses. The moment doubt begins to enter, more doubt rushes in. The same with the I Am. If you put your attention upon it, it rushes forth more and more. Where the conscious attention is fixed, there the energy pours. Dear ones, says Saint Germain, do you not see when you want something revealed or to be inspired in some way, do you not see I am that. The moment you say I am, you set in motion this power that has inherent within it all these faculties. It has all substance and must take on whatever form the attention of the mind is fixed on. The I am, the name of God, is the fathomless mind of God. In reaching for understanding, the average student is but contracting the recurring memory of that which has been, instead of going into the heart of God and bringing forth that which never has been. Individuals and students many times do not and will not realize that there have been many civilizations of vast attainments which are entirely unknown to the outer world today. Atlantis and Lemuria, or the land of Mu, as credited by a few today, are but fragments of the great civilizations that have been. Like, we get this idea that it's all now in this world that we're in and it never existed before. To do unusual things, the students who wish to do this take the determined stand, I am the heart of God, and I now bring forth ideas and accomplishments which it has never been brought forth before. Consider only, I am that which I wish to bring forth. The I am presence is the heart of God. You are immediately in the great silence the moment you say I am. If you recognize that you are the I am, that whatever you declare is manifest in that moment. So, when I think about why it is that people aren't able to create the kind of miracles that this group is going to be able to create after we disperse, it's that we have to make our number one relationship, our number one priority, the number one thing in my life. I was talking about this yesterday over and over again with people, with individual people, that my number one relationship in my life, at this point in my life, is my relationship to God, my relationship to my source. It's number one. It's above my relationship to my children. It's above my relationship to any of you, the people that I teach, to people, individuals in my life that I love. My number one relationship, and your number one relationship, needs to be this I am presence that is within you, that is within each and every one of us. And when you can do this, the reason people can't do it is because our identification is so strongly tied into what our senses have told us about our life. There is a place and a possibility that miraculous things can happen, but you have to, in order to banish the doubt, in order to heal this energy body that I'm speaking about here, in order to be, you have to be in such a position that you're not asking. You're not coming from a ordinary place asking someone extraordinary to do something for you. That's sort of what we've learned in our religious model, that God is outside of us, something like a cosmic bellboy, that if we just sort of ask it to do something for us and we behave and we pay a certain amount of money and we go to the right temples and we do the right things, that this external being will provide us with favors, and that this God has the ability to heal, but it withholds it depending upon what mood it's in and so on. And that's a very different concept that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a concept of God that says that we are all pieces of God. Like T.S. Eliot said, we shall not cease from exploring. And at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time, to know it. You don't have to die to do this. You can know it here. You can know it now. You can say to yourself, as the I Am discourses say over and over and over again, the I Am is the divine work of God. And you are capable of saying I am. And you don't want to add anything after I am that isn't consistent or harmonious or in rapport with God. That is the all-creating knowing, the all-knowingness. We all know everything. There's a higher self within each and every one of us. There's a highest self which is omniscient and omnipotent, all-powerful, and everywhere at once.
If I have a simple tulip bulb in my hand, and I ask you to look at it and say, what is it? You'd say, well, it's just a grungy mass of biological matter. I say, but look at it more closely. And if it gets nurtured in a certain way, that is, it's watered and put in the ground, it will become a tulip bulb. Why? Because it has built into it a future pull. A future pull that you can't see or dissect or find in any lab. It has a future pull, a picture that is part of its DNA, part of its genetic inheritance. If you take a liver cell from your liver and look at it and dissect it, and it has a future pull, it will always be a liver cell. It will never be anything else. In order for you to be able to manifest magic, real magic in your life, miracles, you must first be able to conceive of it. You must be able to conceive of it, and that means no doubt. And the doubt comes by shifting to a knowing rather than a belief. All of this stuff, Deepak and I are talking now about taking a group, making a movie, and taking in this movie a group of babies that say 100 of them. And as they are born, we remove them from the environment that they're in, orphans and so on, children who are to be abandoned, and we place them into a world where there is no doubt, where they get past the lie. You know, we're led to believe a lie, as William Blake said in his wonderful poem, Songs of Innocence. He said, to see the world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand and infinity in an hour, we are led to believe a lie when we see with, not through the eye, which was born in a night to perish in a night, when the soul slept in beams of light. All of us are born in a night to perish in a night, in the physical world. But the soul, the spirit, resides and sleeps in formless beams of light. We are led to believe a lie, a huge lie. And the lie is that there are limitations in our life. Imagine these little children being raised in a world where doubt and impossible and can't do are never exposed to that. Anything that they can conceive of in their mind, they're able to practice. They go to fire putting out school, 101. And in fire putting out school, here's a fire over here, and you sit here, and you work on it with your mind. And you put that fire out. You know what my kids and I do after dinner? Many times after dinner in the evenings, a couple times a week, we go out and we put blankets on the grass. And in the blankets on the grass, we look up at the sky. And we kids say, I'm going to make clouds. Who wants to make clouds? I want to make clouds, Daddy. I want to make clouds. I'm going to make a rabbit. My kids, all the people in the neighborhood think that my kids are neurotic. Those Dyer kids think they can make clouds. Why not? The same intelligence that flows through them flows through the clouds. Why not shatter the illusion of your separateness and believe that? Imagine a whole curriculum, a whole world in which you were raised to know that there was no doubt. And you can transcend that doubt. And when you do, you begin to see that miracles, synchronicity become very much a part of your life.
That you have within you the power to not only trust in yourself and in this divine wisdom, and also that you are connected to it through being a part of the environment as well as the environment being a part of you, but to also know that there's an energy, there's a force that will be used to bring to you what it is that you seek. So some of the things that you can do to access this force and to begin to have things show up in your life through this energy is when you first wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how did the conditions of my life that I would like to change first come about? How can I facilitate making conscious contact with my unlimited, invisible source of energy? In other words, stop just seeing yourself as someone that is separate from all of the things that have happened in your life, and recognize that there is something that you have been doing to manifest everything that's in your life already. It didn't just happen. Somehow, in some perhaps mysterious way, all that has showed up in your life showed up because of your own inner world and how you connected to it. So just look around and ask yourself, how did this spouse show up? How about these children? How about this furniture that I have? How about this job that I'm in? All of these things, what role did I play in this? Was this just a fortuitous accident of nature, or am I collaborating in some way that I don't quite understand with the forces of nature that bring things to me? And then begin to take some responsibility for it. Secondly, I would explore the possibility that perhaps the reason you believe that life is limiting is because you've assumed limitation to be in your life. If you don't assume there are any limitations in your life, then those limitations begin to go away. And all of the limitations that you experience and see in your world are really that which is in the physical world. There are only limits in the physical plane, in the right-hand side of the room, as I put it. All of the stuff that you see. Yes, there are beginnings and ends to all of that as our senses perceive them. But in fact, that's really not who we are. Who we truly are, that divine being that is in all things, is unlimited. And when we can give up our forfeiture of our ability to get into that world, we also give up the world of limitations. Whatever picture you are able to create mentally will assist you in knowing that the creative energy is flowing through you. So work on these pictures that you have and make sure that the inner pictures you have of what it is you would like to have, these visualizations, are working with you rather than against you. When you are able to internally picture yourself cooperating with the divine intelligence, it will cooperate with you. If you can't picture this for yourself, if you can't get that inner picture, then you will manifest whatever it is that you are picturing, which is doubt. Another thing that I would remind myself is to never limit the spirit in any way. Talk to your spirit. Talk to this divine intelligence that is you, that is even giving you the power to talk in the first place and to think. And tell the spirit what you want without telling it how you want it to happen. Then retreat in faith and trust. Also, I would keep your mental picturing to yourself. Keep it secret. Keep it private. What you want to attract is between you and God. And the moment that you need to prove it or you need to share it, you take the energy away from its accomplishment and onto the reactions of others. Another thing to do here is to examine all of the supposed lacks and scarcities in your life. Then remind yourself, I created all of this with my thoughts and my conditioning and my beliefs and my actions of my past. Taking responsibility for all that has shown up in your life is the way to transcend the things that you no longer want to show up. Also remember that what you think about is what you become. The great secret of the universe. The strangest secret, as my friend Earl Nightingale used to say. What you think about is what you become, what you think about all day long. Be conscious of every thought or every picture that ends up in your head, because that's what you will manifest in your life. And if you're doubting that, then you will manifest the doubt. And finally, I would recommend that you begin to act as if what you really want to attract to your life is already here, because it couldn't be anyplace else. Everything that's in the universe is already here. You don't create anything, you just redistribute, and you just attract that which is already here to your life. And so, if you are acting as if what you want is already here, if you're thinking you'd like to have health, then you start thinking that I'm healthy. If you think that you'd like to have a divine soulmate show up in your life, you act as if that person is there. And you begin to have conversations with that person and expect that person to show up. If you have inner views about attracting prosperity for yourself, then you begin to act prosperous. You go to places where people who live prosperously are hanging out. You walk around car dealerships that reflect this kind of consciousness. You always act as if what you want is already here. It just hasn't aligned yet with your intention. And that's what manifesting is. the alignment of your intention with divine purpose.
Everything in this universe is energy. That energy doesn't come in good and bad. It comes in high and low, comes in fast and slow. That the energy that we live with and breathe with and is surrounding us at all times is really much more in our control or even in our ability to change than we have been conditioned to believe in our lives. In fact, energy and energy medicine and the idea of energy is a whole new world of investigation. And that there are certain principles, there are certain ways of living, and certain things that we can do that can help to bring our energy into the higher and faster energies. The slower energies will calibrate to make us weaker. The slowest of them are shame and fear, self-doubt, anxiety, depression, and so on. And that each time we have a thought, which is the source of our energy, of any one of these kinds of lower and slower vibrations, that we impact our bodies, our environment, our families, and ultimately our universe. So that we almost have an obligation not to think depressing thoughts. Not only because it will impact us negatively in our physical bodies, but because it will literally impact all of those around us as well. And as we become very conscious of our thoughts and the fact that they represent an energy and they can result in our being weaker or stronger, we can become conscious of how quickly we can shift those energies and how easy it is rather than how difficult it is to make those shifts. In an instant, you can utilize something like japa, the repetition of the sound of the name of God, in the moment of stress or anxiety or fear or shame. You can use that no matter how much your ego and the part of you that demands that you be right insists that you not do this. You can literally just do this for a minute or two or three and shift it and find that it disappears. I want to show you this map of human consciousness. Map of human consciousness goes from a frequency that he has created called 1 to 1,000. And the lower the frequency, that is the slower the vibration, the more it will keep you weak. And anything below 200, by his formulation after 29 years of study, anything that calculates or vibrates or calibrates lower than 200 will weaken you. It will take away your strength. And anything above 200, up to as high as 1,000, will empower you. So below 200 is force, above it is empowerment. The lowest level in this map of consciousness is called shame. That when you are experiencing a shameful thought, you will weaken yourself. The next up is guilt. The next up is apathy. All of these will weaken you. The next is grief. Grief itself, even though there's a lot of people making a strong case for it, to grieve is to weaken yourself. Fear, which has as its emotional counterpart anxiety. Craving, or ultimate desire. Anger, and pride, which is scorn and hate, are all going to weaken you. Now, the ones that will strengthen you, starting from the lowest ones that will strengthen you, that calibrate at 250 and above, are neutrality, which has an emotional correlate of trust, and then willingness, that calibrates at 310, and that's optimism, and then acceptance, which is forgiveness in the emotional realm, is 350. Reason and understanding calibrate at 400. Love and reverence at 500. Joy at 540, and serenity. And finally, peace at 600 is the highest that most of us will ever reach. Peace and bliss will always empower you. Now, I'm just talking about thoughts here, just thoughts of peace and bliss. Whereas the highest one, enlightenment, which is the emotion of ineffability, calibrates between 700 and 1,000 when you're out there athletically competing. That if your energy or your attention is on force, that is on being able to defeat your opponent, you will always calibrate weaker. It will make you weaker. When your emphasis is on defeating someone else or trying to overcome them, and they can measure what thoughts you have, and when they're on that, you will become weaker and you will perform at a lower level. But when you put your energy and your attention on performing at the most empowering level that you are capable of performing at, and using your God-given abilities and talents to just allow yourself to go out there and connect at the spiritual level and perform, you will always perform at a higher level, and you will calibrate strong rather than weak. Let me share with you from my heart. I have 6 daughters and 2 sons, but I have a 16-year-old daughter, the only child that we have, who has taken a different path in her life, and we've struggled with it. And she has she had a very serious automobile accident. She had to be cut out of the car. She has taken a path of drinking and experimenting in drugs and so on. And I know that this is a path, and it's a very painful path, and she's had some very difficult times with it. And she's got a whole thing about authority and doing things her own way and so on. And I understand it, because I've lived it my whole life. And every time, I must say that in the last 3 or 4 months, there's been just incredibly dramatic shifts in our life. And it's because there has been a shift in how I and my wife are dealing with this. And I used to, when I would think about her, I would be filled with rage and filled with pain. And I would be tearful, and I'd be angry at the dumb choices that she would make and the things that she would do that just didn't seem to make sense. And I don't know if you've raised teenage daughters, but I saw a wonderful title for a book about raising teenage daughters. It said, Get Out of My Life. That was the title. But first, drive me and Cheryl to the mall. All right? It's a great book, by the way. And so I would be in my mind, and I'd be thinking about it, and I would try meditating, and I'd try working on it, and so on. And nothing seemed to work. And then I began to study this Foundations of Mysticism, this series of lectures by Joel Goldsmith, this great healer, lived back in the 1950s, wrote the Parentheses in Eternity and the Infinite Way. Wonderful, wonderful readings. He was a Christian Scientist and a very big supporter of chiropractic as well. And he talked about how we nullify disorder, disease, disharmony, and so on, and that, a reminder, the spirit gives life. The flesh counts for nothing. These words that I say unto you are spirit. And he said, getting down on your knees and asking God to heal you, or getting down on your knees and asking God to grant you abundance where scarcity resides, getting down on your knees and asking God for anything is a foolish mission. Because the assumption behind asking God to give you something is that God already has it, but he's holding it back. He said, Luke 15:31 says, all that I have is thine. It's all yours already. And you are already connected to all that I have. And God, he said, isn't going to be doing anything different 1 hour from now
than God is doing now. And God isn't going to be doing anything different an hour from now than God was doing 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. God is the infinite now. Don't assume that God is a withholding God. If I had the keys to healing you, to giving you abundance, to giving you a great relationship, to providing a job for you, whatever it is that you would like, and I held it all back, unless you begged for it or obeyed the rules that I said you must obey, you would say, you know, you're really not even a very nice person, let alone a very nice God. He said you must know that you're connected to it already, and that the disease, the disharmony, the discord will be nullified, will be wiped out when you bring spirit to it. And as I would think about my daughter and the rage, I would feel myself as I was plugged into the physical, the laws of the material. And I would, in my own mind, I would unplug myself from the material, and I would plug myself into God. It's a wonderful mental image when things aren't going the way you would like them to go. Just unplug yourself from the laws of the physical, especially where there's disharmony, disorder, disease, and plug into God. And what you do when you plug into God is you bring love, you bring pardon, you bring hope, you bring joy, you bring fulfillment to that, and you correct the error, and it's gone. I had a friend who was diagnosed with cancer and told that she had just a few months to live. And she knew that she was in disharmony. And she didn't even tell her parents. She didn't tell anyone. She knew what she had to do. She had read all the spiritual literature. She had immersed herself in meditation and deep prayer. But still, she was surrounded by and contaminated by the energy field of those who were living in fear and without faith. And she left and she rented a cabin up in Wisconsin, in northern Wisconsin. And she went there all alone. And in the process, what she knew she had to do for 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, was to just reconnect to her source. And in the process of doing this, of just communing with God and just bringing peace, she came back from there a cleansed and whole person, and a healed person as well. It is in the bringing of spirit to disease. And that's why I say and said to you at the very beginning, you must be operating at a different level.
And while I don't think that it's very possible for most of us to ever completely get rid of this ego, as long as we're incarnated into a human form, I do believe that it is possible for us to tame it and to make it less of a dominant force in our lives by no longer having such an important role placed on being right and making other people wrong. One of the ways to begin to work at treasuring your divinity is to practice being kind rather than being right in as many occasions as you possibly can. And you have lots of opportunities to do this on a daily basis. Thousands of them show up in little tiny interactions in virtually every place you go, with strangers, with your children, with your spouses, on the telephone, ordering something in a restaurant, whatever. There's always this part of us that is the ego that wants to be right, that wants to make the dust rise from the earth with your swagger. And you know, after a while, you start noticing it. You start observing it. As your own ego becomes less and less of a dominant force in your life, you start to notice how much other people's ego is playing such a role, how much strutting there is, how much posturing there is, how much bragging takes place. You can see it in body language. You can see it in the way that people deal with each other. You can see it in lines at the grocery store. You can see it when you're trying to get your ticket straightened out at the airport, whatever it might be. There's this placing somebody else in a position of inferiority and you are here to do this for me, and I'm more important than, and it isn't said that way, but it's sort of communicated. And you think to yourself that all of these people, I do it all the time, all of these people are nothing more than me in an earlier time in my life, that this is the way I was. I see it in my past relationships. I see it in the way that I dealt with my children years ago and the way that I deal with them now. I see it in noticing that it's easier now for me to be kind and to suspend being right. And I'm right almost all the time. But I no longer need to point it out, except for right now, of course. But the idea that even if you know that when you're talking to someone that they're completely wrong, if you can suspend the need to point it out and instead just say something kind back in response, if you can just practice doing that wherever you are, those are points towards treasuring your divinity. It's not about worshiping more. It's not about getting down on your knees and practicing somebody else's orthodoxy. It's not about fitting in. It's not about memorizing verses out of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or whatever. It's not about that. It's about practicing being Christ-like rather than Christian. It's about practicing being Buddha-like rather than Buddhist. It's about practicing being Muhammad-like rather than Muslim. Muhammad said, don't even harm any tree that has a green leaf growing on it. If there's a green leaf growing on it, don't harm it. Practice that. That kind of love and admiration for humanity. Live as much as you can those principles. And all it amounts to is simply beginning a process of moving out of the lowest levels of consciousness. The lowest level of consciousness is ego consciousness. Ego, some have suggested EGO, is an acronym for edging God out. That as you edge God out of your life, what you have done is you have separated yourself from your divinity, believed that you are those 6 things, separate from everyone, separate from what you would like to attract into your life, separate from God, your reputation. You start believing that this is who you are, and you start living this way, and you look upon your divinity as something that is out there that you'll see, you'll talk to on at the synagogue on Saturday or at church on Sunday morning or whatever. And you'll practice during certain days, like we call, at the end of the year, 30 days of fasting, and this makes me, closer to God and so on. To me, it's about applying the principles of moving past ego consciousness. And when I see conflicts between one group and another, men versus women, when I see conflicts between people who are older and people who are younger, when you see conflicts existing between people who have one color skin and a different color of skin, when you see conflicts between people who wear a robe versus those who wear a yarmulke, when you see all of these divisions, and there are just endless numbers of them that we pigeonhole ourselves into, they are still the cause of virtually all conflicts on the planet. We still are dividing ourselves. We don't understand that this is a round planet, and on a round planet, there's no choosing up sides. There are no sides.
Mindfulness just is, Here's one of the Thich Nhat Hanh's quotes. He says, "Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet." It's a practice of putting your mind and your consciousness onto exactly where you are in the moment, and being able to find beauty. It's one of the great teachings that I learned as a young man is that looking at beauty in the world is the very first step in purifying the mind. To be able to find beauty. I remember the story I told of Viktor Frankl when I was with him in 1978 on a panel in Vienna, the great Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And he said that they would give, we had lunch after that, just the two of us. I was very, very touched, and it was one of the most memorable moments of my life. And he said to me, when we were given a
a bowl of dirty water with a floating fish head in it. And that was our protein for the day. And he said, you had to be able to find a way to find beauty in that. He said, when we're challenged with circumstances over which we have absolutely no control, that we're challenged to change ourselves. And instead of looking at this as poor me and this shouldn't be happening and isn't this awful, but looking at it in terms of this is where I am. This is where I am in here, in this moment. And in this moment, I'm going to find beauty in this and be in a state of appreciation for this fish, for it's giving its life to me. It's allowing me to, to survive and so on. And he said the people, he told me, and I'll never forget this, he said the people in the concentration camps, this was in Auschwitz in Poland, he said the people who couldn't find beauty in the circumstances that they were in, the horrible circumstances that they were in, he said they would always perish. He said, you've got to be able to see beauty. You know, the famous line from John Keats in Ode on a Grecian Urn, beauty is truth, and truth is beauty. That's all you need to know on earth. That's all you know on earth, and all you need to know. And so that this ability, and that's what mindfulness is. It's walking on the earth and kissing the ground with your feet with each step that you take and becoming aware of it. He talks often, frequently about being able to find beauty in just drying a dish. Yeah, a lot of times people sit down, and while they're while they're sitting down for a meal, they're already thinking about what they're going to have for dessert, and instead of just being there in this moment. If this is the appetizer and this is the bite that I'm taking, and and this is what I'm tasting in this moment, and to find beauty in virtually everything that there is in you. It's this way of making the mind pure.
Every beauty which is seen here below, down here below, by persons of perception resembles more than anything else that celestial source from which we all come. Isn't that great? Every beauty that we see resembles more than anything else that source. We're talking about source, connecting to source, from which we all come. Do you see beauty? Do you see it more or less in your life? Can you find it in a homeless person urinating on the street? Can you find beauty in a cockroach? As you reach higher levels of consciousness, you begin to see, not only do you see beauty everywhere and in everything, you begin to recognize it as truth.
And, you can look around, whoever you are, listening, wherever you are on this planet right now, look out your window or look to your right or look to your left, wherever you are, in a little room someplace, or sitting on a beach somewhere, or driving in your car, or whatever it may be, and just look around. What I want to say to all of you is that, the very first step in purifying your mind and moving into higher levels of consciousness and recognizing the eternal, infinite consciousness that you are, is to look at beauty in the world and see it in as many places as you can. And if you're a writer, you write a poem about it. I mean, there's 3 or 4 poems in there right now that and if I were talking, if Rumi were here listening, and maybe he is, maybe that was Rumi, in the, because I have such a love affair with his poetry. Maybe it was Rumi walking across my balcony on the railing, saying, "Find beauty in me." Just one of the strangest experiences that I've had, and that all came from Thich Nhat Hanh. And since we had that experience, and since I was reading him this week, I've been finding beauty in everything, in every little bird that flies by, and every person that's out there, and every wave that shows up, and so on.